Good morning, everybody. Matt here. I've got some pork butts right here. I'm gonna put on the pellet grill here in a few minutes. Just wanted to show y'all a way to smoke some pork butts for pulled pork barbecue. This is a kind of a savory, sweet flavor pulled pork barbecue. It's a recipe that my uncle gave me. It's not my recipe, and let me show y'all what I do to get this started. First, I'm gonna take some cheap, any brand, store brand yellow mustard is fine. I'm gonna put a light coat, and I've got these, the fat cap side up. Just put a little light coat of yellow mustard on there. Get it rubbed in real good, spread out. Make sure you get the sides. What this is gonna do, this serves as a binder. It's gonna make that rub stick good. You know, you can do this without the mustard, but if you do, you've got to let it sit up for 30 or 40 minutes to make sure the meat sweats in real good and that rub sticks to it, because if not, it's gonna burn off whenever you put it on the grill, and I don't want it to do that, because that rub is gonna be what gives us the bark that we are looking for. But I always do it fat cap side up. That way I only have to flip it one time. Well, I should have done this first. Hold on just a second, guys. Should have done this first. Don't be afraid to put a good bit of rub on here, because it's going to help us with that bark that we're looking for. And the same way with ribs or briskets. Make sure you get those sides real good. Oh. Started clogging up on me there. Make sure you get this in right here. We're just going to pat that in. We're not going to rub it, we're just going to pat it. Make sure it sticks to that binder real good. Go ahead and flip that one over. Get a rub on this one. My rub is starting to stick together, guys. I broke this stuff apart one time this morning. Make sure we get good coverage all the way across it. Get top, bottom, on all four sides. Uh-oh. Starting to run low on my rub here. It's all good, we got more. Alright. Go ahead and lather up this side with mustard. And it doesn't take a whole lot of mustard. You're not going to take this, or you're not going to taste it. All you're wanting is something for that rub to stick to, that way it doesn't come off when you put it in the smoker. Get that rubbed around real good. We'll go ahead and grab my other bottle of rub real quick. guys. Make sure you get a lot on there. Make sure you get enough to cover all the meat. Don't want any bare spots. Me personally, I never really taste the rub after the product is done. It's basically to make sure you get the bark you're looking for. It really helps get that crust on the outside of the meat. So you don't have to get too elaborate with your rub as far as flavor, brand, kind, or anything. Just the cheap stuff will do. It's not a steak. It's not where your bulk of your flavor is going to come from, at least not on this recipe anyway. Get that patted in real good. We're going to let that sit for a minute. And that's all there is to it for prepping your meat. I'll cut y'all back on in just a minute. Guys, I got it turned on and it just fired up. It's got all that thick white smoke in there right now. I'm going to give it a second and wait for that fan to kick on. Let all that thick, nasty white smoke kick out, because you don't want all that thick white smoke in there. You want a clear or somewhat of a bluish tint in your smoke. That white smoke's what gives you that nasty, thick, overwhelming smoke flavor, and that's not what you want. Alright guys, that smoke is cleared out. I'm going to shut the lid down. Let this thing come up to temp, but I'm going to come down here and show y'all something real quick. Come down here to my primer setting. See right there where it says P-set. And it's right there on the screen, it says P4. We're going to work that until it's on P setting 6. What that does, that sets your primer to where you have a good amount of pellets coming in, and gives you that good smoke flavor. And we're going to leave it there till it comes up to temp, and then we're going to come put our meat on, and we're going to leave it there for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to put it back up to 250. But this is the Pit Boss Austin XL. I'm using Pit Boss's competition blend pellets. It's pecan, hickory, and mesquite, and in my opinion it gives it a pretty good flavor. But I'll cut y'all back on whenever it gets back up to temp, and I'll bring the meat out. Alright folks, we came out here to check our grill. It's at 190. That's where we want to start the smoke at, and grill's up to temp. We're ready to go. Got both my butts right here. Open this thing up, and over here is where I'm gonna put my meat, because this side is a little bit cooler than the rest of the grill. The way I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna set this fat cap side down, because what that's gonna do is protect the meat from the heat that's coming up from the bottom of the grill, because our heat is actually coming from right out of the middle right there. Even though it's got that heat deflector right there, our element is right there. That's where the heat is coming from. So I know when you're offset smokers, you've got them coming out of the side and going straight across over the meat and out the top. But in this particular grill right here, it comes out the bottom, out the element right there, underneath all that down there. So put your fat cap side down, and it's going to protect the meat and kind of get your meat adjusted how you want it on here. And that's pretty much the extent of it. We're going to let it sit for an hour. It is 10:20 right now. It's at 11:20. We're going to come out here. We're going to get some probes in these bad boys, and we're going to cut the temperature up to 250. I'll cut y'all back on when that happens. Alright folks, it is 11:21. It's been just a little bit over an hour. I'm going to come out here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come right over here, and I'm going to turn this from smoke up to 250 degrees. I'm going to come right over here and check this out. It's starting to look good so far. starting to dry out just a tad bit. Side right here, so I've got a little mixture of white distilled vinegar and some water. Not doing this for flavor, just gonna spritz that up a little bit. Keep that good and moisturized because we don't want this drying out. I'm not gonna spray it too hard because I don't want to wash that rub off of there. I'm gonna come over here, take my first probe, and I want this to go into the thickest part of the meat. So I'm gonna come down here and measure. Take it, drive it right up here, thickest part of the meat, put it down in the center, as soon as I get away from that bone. There we go. Plug that in over here. This is gonna be probe number 2. Take my other probe over here. Do the same thing. Stick it down. Into the thickest part of the meat. And we're going to let that sit. That's going to be probe 1. Go ahead and shut that lid. Come out here every hour or so. Check, see how things are going. I'm going to check my bark on here. Make sure nothing's drying out. Keep it spritzed if need be. Not going to put a whole lot on here. Not doing this for flavor. Just really want to keep it moisturized. And I'm going to keep an eye on my temp down here. My internal temp for the meat. I'm going to let this cook until it gets up to 160. One's at 82 right now, and one is at 60 right now. So I'm going to let that cook until it gets 160. We're going to take them off. We're going to put some other ingredients in there, and we're going to wrap them with heavy duty tin foil, and then we're going to put it back on until it gets up to 205. And it normally takes about 4 or 5 hours for it to hit 160. This isn't a Boston butt. These are just regular shoulder butts today, so it may be a little sooner, but we will see, and I will keep y'all updated, and I will turn y'all on in the next video. Alright folks, just wanted to give y'all a little quick update. I decided that I think I'm going to let those butts go for two more hours instead of 1 hour, because the bark hasn't even begun to even think about starting to set yet. So I don't want to keep opening my grill, because when you do that, it lets all that heat out, and it's just not what you want. You want that heat to stay consistent as much as possible. So instead of opening it up at 1220, I'm gonna go out there at 120, check on everything, and as long as my temp doesn't reach 160 first, if my temp reaches 160 first, I'm gonna go ahead out there and check it all and make sure the fat is rendered, because you want to make sure that fat is rendered before you wrap the meat, because if not, you're gonna have nasty, fatty, chewy barbecue. And I don't know about y'all, but I really don't like that. And sorry for the background noise. Don't know if y'all can hear me that great, but my dishwasher's running right next to me, and my wife is being hard-headed. She's outside cutting grass, although I told her I'd do it this evening. But she says she's not trying to send me a message, but I think she's telling me a lie. Y'all leave me a message in the comments, tell me what y'all think. But anyway, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let that go for 2 more hours, and just want to give y'all a recap real quick of what I did from start up to this point. You know, I wash my meat. We believe in washing our meat here in this house, because when it's packaged, it's got all the nasty crap inside of it to keep it lubricated and to keep it from drying out. And I wash all that nonsense off and whatever excess blood is in there, and get some towels out and dry them off real good, get all that water off of there. And then if there's any large amounts of fat hanging off, or any kind of large chunks of meat hanging off, I'll go ahead and trim that. But for the most part, you don't really have to trim butts that a whole lot like you would a brisket or ribs or anything like that. There's no membrane, there's not all that other extra added stuff that you need to trim off. But and plus majority of it will come off when you start shredding that stuff. It'll just cook down and you can just add it in. But washed off my meat, went ahead and lathered everything up with just some yellow mustard, not for taste but for a binder to make my rub stick. And like I said, go ahead and do your fat side first. That way when you flip it over, you don't have to keep flipping it, because you're going to cook it with your fat side down to protect the meat. Just go ahead and lather up your fat side first and get it rubbed in, all that good stuff, and then do your non-fat side, your lean side. Go ahead and get it ready, and then cover it. Make sure you cover it every inch of that meat. You want it all covered with rub, because that's what's going to help that bark and that crust. That's what's going to help it develop. That rub, in my opinion, is not really there for flavor, because to be honest with you, when you're dealing with a finished product, I've never been able to taste the flavor except for what you've added as far as liquids and things like that goes. But went outside, cut my grill on, let it clear out, got it cleaned up good and everything. And once that white smoke cleared out of there that I showed y'all, I went ahead and put my P setting on 6, my primer setting. That way it feeds the proper amount of pellets in there to where it's not too smoky, but at the same time it's feeding enough to where it's keeping the fire lit. And went ahead and put it on P setting 6 and the smoke setting for an hour. Just let that smoke flavor set in, and that is really what develops that smoky flavor and getting that smoke ring started, in my opinion. And went out there, it was drying out in certain spots, so I went ahead and spritzed it up real good. I don't spritz it for flavor, I just spritz it to keep it moisturized. And then cut the temperature up to 250 and put my probes in, the thickest part of the meat, and just gonna monitor that temp, make sure it doesn't get above 160. And once it hits 160, I'm gonna pull them off, wrap them, put all my other ingredients in there, and close it back down and just keep an eye on it. And once it hits 205, I'm pulling it off and I'm gonna let it rest for an hour. But that's the gist of it up to this point. I will cut y'all back on and give y'all an update here sooner or later. Alright guys, I'm back. Just wanted to let y'all know something real quick. I went outside. It's been about 30 minutes since I changed the temp on that meat, and it's already starting to rise. I think both butts have risen 20 degrees already, so it's probably not going to be 4 or 5 hours before they're ready to pull off. Like I said, these ain't Boston butts, they're just shoulder butts. It's a smaller chunk of meat, but that's fine. I'm gonna really keep an eye on it, and I'm not pulling either one of them off until they hit 160. When one hits 160, I'm gonna bring it in, do what I gotta do, leave the other one on until it hits 160, because I want to make sure both of them hit that 160 mark. And also, what I did is, after I put the meat on the grill, I forgot to tell y'all this, I came back inside and went ahead and got my grill gloves ready, got those cleaned up, and I went ahead and filled up the sink with some dishwater. That way I could keep whatever I'm using clean, because you don't want to be cooking in a dirty kitchen. And like my cutting board, the pan that I'm using to transport my meat with, my knives, my shredding claws right here, keep all that stuff clean. And went ahead and swept the floor where I got rub on it and wiped off the counter and everything. But just keep that in mind. Every little bit helps. That way when you're done with the cook, you don't have to do all that extra cleaning. You'll still have to clean up after yourself from what you made right then, but you won't have a filthy kitchen all day long. And your wife or whoever is cleaning up your house will really appreciate it. You'll thank me later, guys. But cut y'all back on soon. Alright folks, it's been 2 hours. It is 1:20 right now. Walked out here. First thing I did was look at my temps down here. One of them is at 145 and one is at 127. Still got a little while longer on this, but I am gonna go ahead and open it up and check, see what we're looking like. Oh yeah, looking good, folks. That bark is starting to set. Oh yeah, fat's starting to render down some. I'm gonna go ahead and get some liquid on this. Go ahead and spritz these things up real good, real nice. keep them from dehydrated, keep them from drying out. Smell that, baby? That thing smells amazing. But we got another 20 degrees we need to go on the one in the back, another 40 degrees on the one in the front before we worry about pulling them off and wrapping them. But I'm gonna give it a wild guess here. I'm gonna say another hour for the one in the back, maybe another hour and a half, 2 hours for the one in the front. But it's getting close to time, guys. It's getting close to time for the magic hour. But it's hot out here. Hope you guys are staying safe indoors where it's cool at, drinking plenty of liquids. But I'll cut y'all back on as soon as we come out here in a little while. All right, folks, come out here a few minutes ago and check the temperature. My Probe 1, I think it is. Yes, Probe 1 is at 167 right now. We'll go ahead and take that one off and get it ready to wrap. What I do when I pull these off, I leave the probe in there. I grab it, set it on the pan, like so. Gloves off real quick so I don't drip that crap all through my house. Bring it on inside. Y'all follow me inside. I'll show you what we do with it. All right, folks, we got our shoulder butt inside on some tinfoil. Like I said, I usually leave the probe in there because the way I like to do it, I don't like to poke through my tinfoil. So what I do is I leave my probe in there and I just fold it up around it and leave a hole with my probe in there, and I don't have to keep poking holes in different parts of the meat and in my tinfoil. What I'm gonna do first is, I'm gonna get some gloves. I should have already done that, but it's all good. I'm gonna get some gloves on. We can get this stuff going over here. All right, what I've got here is I've got honey, tiger sauce, and brown sugar. First I'm gonna take my honey. I'm gonna drizzle it on the meat. I'm gonna put quite a bit on there because it is a decent chunk of meat here. After I get that on there, I'm going to take it, I'm going to rub it around on there, because not only is it going to give it flavor, but it's also going to give the brown sugar something to stick to. And I'm not going to worry about the bottom side, because what's going to wind up happening is once this stuff cooks down and melts, it's going to wind up underneath it. So no need for worrying about the bottom side of it. And I didn't think this through very well neither. I should have opened this before I put the honey on there. Grab that real quick. Alright. Reach right in here. Just gonna grab a few pinches at a time of brown sugar. Put it in different spots on here. it on there the best I can. This stuff's gonna be good, y'all. I'm gonna pat that on there real good. And if some of it falls off into the tin foil, it's okay, because it's all gonna melt down. And once we shred this barbecue, we're gonna mix it all together. So it's all good if it all doesn't stick to the top. But now that I got that, I'm gonna take this glove off. Throw that in the trash. Take my tiger sauce here. I'm just gonna pour some over it. And this is where the heat portion of the sweet heat is gonna come in. This stuff is good. It's really good. Take this glove off so I can handle my tin foil here. I really wish I had some wider tin foil, but as of right now, that's what I've got. I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna bring it up around, kind of create a bowl so that stuff doesn't leak out the sides. And be careful when you're doing this not to puncture the tin foil, because if you do, it's all going to leak out into your cook chamber inside your grill, and kind of defeats the purpose of having tin foil wrapped around it. Keep the flavor in. Take this one, put it over here on this side. Rip that down a little bit. Pat it down around my probe. Same on that one. Same on this side. Just kind of bring your bottom edges up to keep it from leaking out the sides. Alright, I'm going to bring this back out to the grill. We're just going to set it on there anywhere. At this point it doesn't matter, because the meat is basically done. We just wanted to finish off, let that stuff finish up in there. And once that hits 205, we'll come back out here and pull it off. And right now, probe number 2 is at 158, so that one's got a little while longer. Let that finish rendering down. We'll come out here and get that one and bring it in and do the same thing. I got that brown sugar all over my shirt. But cut y'all back on in a few minutes. Alright Alright folks, we're back out here. It is 4:45 right now. This cook has been going on since 10 o'clock this morning, so that's what, 6.5 hours? 10:20, so 6 hours. The temp is hovering right around that 205, 206 mark, so go ahead and take them off of here. Before I do, I'm just going to turn the dial to the off position, unplug my probes. You don't want to come over here and hit the power button and unplug your pit boss, because what it does, if you just turn it to the off position, what it does, the fan on the inside blows all the ashes out once the last bit of the pellets that's in the pot burns out. So you want to leave that, just let that do its thing, and it'll cut itself off when it's done. Go ahead, make sure you have you a good pair of insulated gloves or a big spatula, something made for briskets and butts. But go ahead and reach in here, grab your meat. Be careful, don't tilt it, because your juice will leak out, and you want all your juice to stay inside that wrapper. But the cooking portion is done. They smell amazing too, I might add. But all that's left now is I'm going to take them inside and just set them on my kitchen counter, and I'm going to let them sit for an hour or so, just let them rest. I'm just going to leave the probes in there, let them cool off too, and then when I'm done, I'm going to wash my probes off and bring them out here, put them with my grill, cover my grill up, so on and so forth. But once that's done, I'll bring y'all along with me while I shred the meat and mix it up and everything else. But one other thing I want to add before I take this meat in, I wanted to tell y'all, I meant to tell y'all earlier this morning, anytime you're using a offset smoker or pellet grill or whatever it may be, you always want to come over here to your stack, and you want to create as much airflow as possible. So open up your stack, open it wide open, create as much vacuum inside of that cook chamber as you can. Like I have an offset smoker over here. The way it's set is I have a firebox on the right side, I got a stack on this side, and I have a door. I can adjust the opening on the door, and I can also adjust the opening on my stack. And what that does, that stack creates a vacuum, and it pulls that smoke up into the chamber, across the meat, and out the top of the stack. This right here, instead of a firebox, I just have a hopper that's full of pellets, and the auger that feeds it into a fire pot that has an element in there, and it catches those pellets on fire. And as those pellets are burning, that smoke rises. So you want to have as much airflow as you can, pulling that smoke up and out of the smoke chamber, because you don't want that smoke getting trapped inside with your meat. You want smoky flavor, but at the same time you want that smoke to be clean smoke. You don't want thick, disgusting white smoke, because it gives it a bitter taste on your meat, and we don't want that. But just wanted to give y'all that tip real quick. It's a little small tip, but I'm gonna go ahead and take this inside and let it sit up for an hour or so, and I'll cut y'all back on as soon as we start shredding this meat. Alright folks, what we have here is 2 smoked shoulder butts, picnic butts, whatever you want to call them. They're not Boston butts, they're a little bit smaller, but they're complete. They've sat on the counter for about 2 hours instead of 1 hour, because my wife and I ran into town to grab something from Arby's for the family to eat, and this is not what we are eating tonight. We're actually eating this tomorrow. My mother and father-in-law are going to pull the kids around on the pontoon on the lake tomorrow, and we're going to take this for everyone to eat. And now it's time for the test. We're going to see if we can pull these bones out by hand instead of cutting them off the bone. And there you have it. There you have it, folks. The bone came right out of there. And the actual butt part of that bone is hung up. There we go. But that's it. That's a clean bone, folks. Let's check out this other one. Let's see if it'll come out as easy. It's pretty clean. Pretty clean. Can't complain about that. But let's get into it here. Check out this this money muscle right here. And look at that smoke ring on there. Man, that looks good. Smell good, baby? Mm-hmm. Alright, let's get this thing shredded up. And all these juices you see in here is actually the brown sugar and honey and what was it, the tiger sauce. After we get all this mixed up good, we're actually going to pour that in with it so we can have some sweet heat barbecue. And that's what we will be eating for supper tomorrow out on the boat on the lake. But this is not my recipe. I call this Uncle Mitch's pulled pork barbecue. It's a recipe that my uncle gave to me a little while ago. And it's actually meant to be cooked on an offset smoker, but you have to set your heat differently on a pellet grill. But it's basically the same instructions, or the same basics. So hope y'all got something out of this. If you did, hit that like button and pass it on to someone that's looking for a good recipe. But I'm gonna get off here. I'm gonna finish shredding this up and mix it together, and I'm gonna put it in a bowl, and we're gonna stick it in the refrigerator and eat it tomorrow. But I'll catch y'all guys next time. Bye.